workarounds here.
Nope.
We go live and then tell people, hold on, we're still working on that.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm almost there. Almost there.
All right, let me jump over to our Topic is Trek page and do a quick share. It says we're live, but it has a big gray square over our faces.
Oh,
maybe we're anonymous. I'll go get my Guy Fawkes mask.
Remember the 5th of November. Let's see.
I always forget the 5th of November.
Well, you're supposed to remember it, so.
Yeah, I'm supposed to remember my Alzheimer's meds too, but that's kind of a paradox, isn't it?
No, a paradox would be a boat and another boat at the pier.
Oh, I always get paradox and paradise mixed up.
Cheeseburger and paradox.
And paradolia. Man walks into a bar and orders a paradolia.
We don't have them foreign beers in here. No.
Bad humor abounds.
Let's see. What did he? Yeah, mix up in a beer.
I'll do an app mention of Craig. There. You're recording next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that
Craig
will be the premiere of Lower Deck. So Gary's going to be on.
Gary's going to join you. Okay, good. I think initially I accepted that one. I went, ooh, I don't think so. I think we're still going to be on the road. Yes, I will have to watch.
Okay. All right. Well, I am.
Lower decks.
So you've got to have a hip new catchphrase.
Oh, I do. Let me think. Let me look at my notes real quick from the show. For the 3 episodes we're reviewing. I started a new database in Notion for this. I am just all over Notion. Dashboard. Topic is Trek. Star Trek episode notes. Okay. Hip new catchphrase. Let's see. Okay, I got one.
All right. Listen to Diane is here. Hello.
Yay!
Be seeing her on Saturday. All right.
Audio level check. Give me a quick
check. Rice checks, wheat checks, corn checks.
Everything's corny here, so works good for me. Bring it down just a touch, and we are ready to go.
All right. Let me just do this here. Okay. Give me a count in when you're set.
Bring us back to the chat and acknowledge. Yay, hello. Okay, everything's working well on my end. 3, 2.
This is The Topic is Trek, episode 169 for Friday, October 18th, 2024. Coming up in this episode, we got to get back to Tars Lamora, frogs in space, sort of, and don't plan any trips to Mars, especially Utopia Planitia. All that and more right now on The Topic is Trek. This is certainly a title. Welcome to The Topic is Trek, the podcast that runs on impulse power. Join us for a journey where no show has gone before. If it has to do with Star Trek, there's a good chance we'll talk about it sooner or later, because on this show, the topic is Trek. Engage already. I always feel like for the live broadcast that we're doing of it, I should be sitting at a news desk and have some papers I'm shuffling or something when the intro's going, like, that type of thing. Anyway, Hello, everyone. My name is Clinton, and I'm one of your co hosts for another exciting, thrill packed edition of The Topic is Trek. Unfortunately, one of my co hosts, Mr. Craig Stepp, will not be joining us again, but still doing some cleanup after the hurricane. Hopefully, he'll be back online with us after he phasers something. But beaming in with the hip new catchphrase that you'll all be talking about tomorrow, maybe, is Mr. Chuck Tomasi.
I am never taking a turbo lift for granted again.
Good one, good one. I mean, it's very specific, so I'm not quite sure exactly how that would work, but yeah, I somewhat approved for this week anyway. Let's put it that way. Well, how have you been, Mr. Tomasi?
Wonderful. We had a nice time in Mexico last week and happy to be here this week. Unfortunately, we won't be here for the next recording session, which is in 1 week from tonight, because we'll be on our way to see some family.
Ah, and we'll be on our way to talking about Star Trek Lower Decks because
No, I love it.
it's just like the old days when one trek would end and another trek would begin.
The
Enjoy
old
it while
days.
it lasts, because this is going to be the last one for a while. But
We're going back to what, books, Enterprise? Where are we?
we did do another book exchange.
I haven't opened mine.
I haven't opened mine yet. It's not a softcover book; it's a hardcover book this time. So that's really
Yep.
serious. You know it's serious when we get to hardcover books.
Oh, the
But-
budget is, we broke the budget on this show.
Yeah, exactly. What we're going to be talking about tonight are the final 3 episodes of season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy.
And I love this cover graphic you put together. Magella's got this look on her face like,
Well, there's certainly a title that we've got right there.
and the fine print on the Elcar's interface, Wormholes End, a podcast discussion centered around the final 3 episodes of the sophomore season of the Netflix series Star Trek Prodigy, a series that could once be found on the Paramount streaming service, but that, as they say, is a topic for another day. Who wrote that?
Why, clearly the EMH wrote that, obviously.
We'll talk more about the EMH in this show.
Oh, will we indeed? All right, let me get that off the screen here. And let's get to my first. Hopefully, I've got the.
Are we on main mission part 1?
We are main mission part 1, so we need an appropriate sound effect.
One appropriate sound effect coming up. I don't know if you call that appropriate or not, but it's a sound effect.
Yeah, it works. It works.
I'm thinking
All right.
using it in the Hollow novel.
Do you want to run us through what we're talking about first here?
We are doing the final 3 episodes, starting with episode 18 from season 2, Touch of Grey. Has nothing to do with Captain Picard's tea. Written by Jennifer Murrow and directed by Sung Shin. Names we've become very familiar with in this series.
Mm-hmm.
Plot synopsis goes something like this. Janeway is frustrated that she has not heard from the cadets on Solum. She's not a patient person. I am not a merry man. Chakotay takes the opportunity to mention that it's the 14th anniversary of the Admiral's first command. Janeway weighs those adventures against everything the cadets have accomplished so far and confesses to Chakotay that she is considering early retirement. I can relate, Janeway. I can relate. Iltheron and Wesley appear on the Voyager bridge and Wesley collapses. This is kind of what we saw at the end of the last episode. So they're just kind of tying these two together. In sickbay, the EMH reports that the traveler's neural pathways have been damaged, but can be restored. However, Wesley's, quote, unique abilities, unquote, may take much longer to heal. Wesley explains that it was necessary for Essentia to build her temporal weapon. It can create the wormhole needed to send the protostar back to Tars Lamora. He also admits that the cadets being captured makes the future uncertain.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, he's as blind as everybody at this point. Essentia broadcasts a message aimed at Janeway. She's using the cadets as proof that alien spies have infiltrated Solum. She challenges Janeway to come to the planet. Even knowing it's a trap, Janeway is unwilling to let the cadets suffer in her place. Chakotay the doctor and Wesley volunteer to and Iltheron accompany her.
Mhm.
To conceal their approach, hologram Janeway oversees the manufacture of a Vaunakot spacecraft, 3D printed right in the shuttle bay. She also has a conversation with the EMH about life experiences and the Doctor's Hollow novels. We'll get to that in a sec. Bluffing their way past security, the ship lands 2 kilometers away from the location the cadets are being taken to. The cadets are transported by train to the ruins of an ancient city that has been fortified to prevent escape. We learn that Essentia has also captured a loom. We're hitting all the high notes on this one, which she unleashes on the prisoners. Reaching the fortified structure, Janeway and the EMH head off to confront Essentia. Janeway offers herself in exchange for the cadets, pointing out she knows a great deal about Starfleet operations, but Essentia decides to simply shoot her at point blank range, as one does. Moments later, Janeway's rendezvous with Chakotay and Wesley, it's actually the EMH that Essentia thinks she has killed. Zero telepathically informs Janeway about the loom and that the creature is also a prisoner. Chakotay thinks it could be a useful distraction. The Admiral turns her comm badge into an explosive charge and blasts through the containment wall, and the creature heads directly for Essentia. However, before reaching its captor, the loom decides to flee the planet.
Run away.
Wesley uses his tricorder to remotely control the away team spacecraft, allowing the entire group to escape. Shaken, Essentia watches a transmission by Iltheron. He is urging the citizens of Solum to reject Essentia's call to war. He says she is the one who has weaponized their world. Gwyn sees Solum collapse into civil war. The Admiral promises to help set things right, saying she has been reminded that boldness isn't only for the young, and that when Starfleet is united, they can always overcome.
So actually, Iltheron was not on that first mission because he's back on Voyager making that transmission out. He's on the
But he when they built the ship, I thought he was there because he somehow ended up. I kind of got him confused. He seemed to be in weird places at weird times.
indeed, and there's something I don't know if I made a note about it. It's not in this episode. It's when he's on the planet that I'm going. That was interesting as well. But all right, so what are your overall impressions of this episode?
Um, Overall, another great show. Great show. I enjoyed it. It moved the story along. The there were a number of questions like, how did she catch that loom? We'll just brush past that. It
Mm,
had some kind of collar on it. It was like, so how do you catch a loom?
very carefully, I guess.
um, I I had a note in here. I have several notes in here when they were looking at all the. Wait, am I on the right one? No, I am on. Oh, I brought up Ouroboros Part 1. Pardon me. Wrong notes. Touch of Gray. There we go. Um, Opening scene. Janeway's making a log entry and typing.
Yes, I noticed that.
I was like, okay. Have we ever seen a log entry where somebody's typing before?
Not that I can recall, and it really made it look like it was just a glorified laptop.
It was a glorified laptop. She got the keyboard edition for her iPad.
See, I had a problem with this episode, and that first scene is part of it because
I know where you're going. Keep going.
it seemed like we had a lot of filler in this episode, and I felt like this scene is put in just specifically so you can have a scene at the end.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all. That's its only function, and then we have a repeat of a scene we've already seen, as you pointed out from last week, is the next thing that we see.
Right.
And also, another thing that struck me odd about it is that it's the second time that Prodigy has done a cold open. So all this stuff is in the cold open, almost like, oh, we need to tack something else onto here. So we've already done all this other stuff. We'll just put it before the credits at the beginning.
Yep.
It just, and I also felt like they went over things more times than they needed to. Usually when you do a script, you don't know how the edit is going to go. So sometimes you'll have a character say something in one scene and then maybe something similar in another scene because you go, I don't know, is it gonna, do we want that take? Do we want it here or there? But Chakotay was thanking everybody left and right for if it wasn't for you, I
Yeah.
wouldn't still be on that. It's like
Here's
I was ready. He
here's
was
the
going to tell the
amazing bit.
replicator the same thing. If it wasn't for you, I would still be on that. So
The
it just seemed like it was stretch this out.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes because, if you want to get to a certain point for your cliffhanger, well, you work with what you got. But some of the things just kind of stood out at me as strange.
The You're right. The beginning felt stretched out, and this is one of the first or one of the few episodes in this season that have done that. So I'm willing to give them a little forgiveness. The I think you needed the first scene to set up Janeway's tired. She wants to retire. She's played this game for a while. I was trying to figure out the math. He said this is the 14th anniversary of your first command.
Right. And she looks over at her Voyager model.
And they've been in the Delta Quadrant for 7 years. And Chakotay's been lost for 10.
Right.
That's 17.
Yes.
How did we get to 14?
Math is hard.
Was he 10 years in some time displaced place?
Yeah, did he leave before Voyager was over and it all happens in the blink of an eye and then he's back again and they continue on being stuck on the I don't know.
I didn't understand that one. Okay. Moving on. When they were 3D printing what was it? The Vonnegut ship?
Yeah, I couldn't find a specific name for it, so I just referred to it as the
What
Vonnegut.
did you think of that design?
Well, first thing I thought of was Dune.
What, with the flappy wings?
Yeah, it seems like the ornithopter from Dune. I don't know. I thought it was one of those almost like a TARDIS as well because it seemed much bigger on the inside than it was on the outside.
You're right. You're right. It did. When they were printing it out on the shuttle bay, it looked like, okay, that's a single person vehicle. And so you got two people sitting side by side. Wow, place is big. I didn't think of that. I thought that scene with Hollow Janeway and the doctor was a little awkward. Like she was sucking up to him. Oh, I read all your Hollow novels. I think they're wonderful. Was there a purpose to that?
I think we're talking more filler at this point, unless because it doesn't come to anything this season at least. So it just seemed like But I've got a question for you. We get to the arena, if you will,
Okay.
where the cadets are inside there.
Yep.
And we have the loom.
Yep.
Who's in there, and there's no real cover. There's a cover on the dome, but within the ruins, there's no cave or something like that. How ineffective are the loom?
By not capturing one of the 5 people running around. Not a one. They were close, but then they kept using each other as distractions. And yeah, I maybe the loom was weakened, but it seemed to be hopping around pretty good. I haven't quite deciphered blue loom versus red loom. Is one in a good mood and one in a hunting mood? There's something there that I didn't quite understand.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. And did it have another color when it was
kind of orangish,
scratching at the collar? I can't remember if there was.
I'm going to back up a little bit, back to the flyer when they were coming in. Okay. Why was Wesley so reluctant to talk about his mother or talk to his mother?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's one of those things where, you don't talk to somebody for a while and then you feel embarrassed that you haven't talked to them for a while, so you don't talk to them longer, and then that kind of becomes this vicious cycle type of thing.
I don't. Look, as an opportunity to go, hey, yeah, this is on me. I apologize. I've been kind of busy traveling around the universe in time and space and thought.
Well, essentially, that's what he ended up having to do when he did show up.
Well, that's because he was stuck in this reality. I don't think he would have done it if he weren't stuck. That just.
Yeah, he gets a nice calling out by Janeway,
As the doctor and Chakotay and Janeway were approaching, the doctor starts narrating his Hollow novel. And he uses the line, as our mission looms ahead. I'm like,
Yes, I noticed that.
was that a corny, purposeful reference? Because I
Too
went,
soon. Too soon.
yeah. My opening line for this show was almost, "I forgot what it's like to use your quads." That's another one that I loved.
But I think, excuse me, for me, I think that's almost a metaphor for the stretchy part of this episode. It's like, okay, they landed 2 clicks away, and then we kind of had this arbitrary scene of them walking, and
Yeah.
just for the purpose of them walking, because there's no real end result of that being a thing other than they have to remotely call the ship to come and get them. But other than that, it's like,
Yeah, I
okay,
understand why if you're trying to sneak up on somebody, you don't land right next to the opening gate. They'll see
right.
you coming. So you have to sneak up from some distance away. So the 2 clicks thing kinda made sense from that standpoint. What was the other one I had here? I thought, oh, I thought the doctor's death scene was terrible. He's talking the whole way down. Robert Picardo must have just had a load of fun with
Oh,
it.
absolutely. And I like Essensia's kind of like,
Yeah. Is this the way
giving it,
everybody on Earth dies?
don't remember this happening before.
I shot you square in the chest and you're still talking. Um, as they were running around and Rock discovers, hey, the loom is acting kind of funny. I think it might be sick. Zero says, I'm sensing loneliness and pain. And they figure out it's a captive as well. It's a prisoner. I thought they were going to somehow free it and gain an alliance against Essentia. I thought that's where that was
Mm.
gonna go. I thought, "Oh, yay. Here's a way to, weaponize a loom against Essentia," but that didn't happen quite that way.
No, well, it's tough because you can't really like pet it because it's just gonna, disintegrate you.
And just blowing up the front door lock makes the collar fall off and everything else black out. That was a pretty powerful communicator they had.
Yeah, I mean, she used her phaser on it, so I guess it's a combination you really don't want to normally have, which makes it something you wonder, okay, well, I hope nobody gets shot at their communicator on the show because you figure it's going to save me. No, it's going to blow you up,
And
actually.
everyone
What?
around you, right? After the odd part about the doctor's death scene is Essentia only notices the mobile emitter after he feigns death. Uh, you didn't
Well, it makes as much sense as that patch that Spock puts on Kirk's uniform. It's a giant thing that's there with the transceiver.
Yeah, the Klingons thought it was just part of the new uniform.
I guess. Well, they're always changing those uniforms, so it must be something new that's going on in there. And
Of course,
we
they
have the
yeah, go ahead.
we have Iltheron using the line, "There is no barrier we cannot overcome," and we will, and if we don't mention it when we get later on, but actually, Essentia also says it at the very end. So apparently, it's just a catchphrase on Solum is to just have that one.
It's on all the soda bottles.
I thought it was something unique, something that they, that
Yeah,
just
a
the
rallying
designer and
cry.
Wynn shared, but it's like, nope, no, it's just like, have a nice day.
There's nothing we cannot overcome. Mhm. Yeah, we gotta come up with something new for next year's election.
Mm.
What else did I have? The Doctor's holo novel to which we based the title of this show. I'm thinking of calling my next holo novel Mission Assignment Solum, The Adventure of Dirk Danger and the Dome of
Oh,
Loom and Doom.
yes.
To which Michelle says,
That is certainly a title.
a
Very, very,
logical response.
yes, very, very, very politically, wise to do
I
it that way.
I was laughing both times I saw that, even though I knew it was coming. It was still funny. Uh,
Oh, so we have an answer to the question about Chakotay and the 14 years, and
oh,
it, it's right here.
new math. It was base 8. Ah! Octal for the win. You only need 3 bits. Oh my.
All right. Any other thoughts on Touch of Gray? We're not talking about Shades of Gray. That's a completely different one. Or
Or the Grateful Dead song.
yes, well, it's not our first time we've had musical references in these
Ah,
episodes.
right.
See a triple called Quest from just last time around.
I'm curious to know if anybody's gonna dress up as Wesley on the cruise with the orange sweater.
Oh yeah, well they might, but you have to have the jacket over it.
That was a cool jacket. I was digging that at the end.
Well, you become a traveler, you can have one yourself. All right, what are we going to rate this one on then?
Gosh, what did we have in here?
Loom.
Oh, we didn't talk about the doctor impersonating the Dread Unit.
Oh yes, where
Real humdinger.
a humdinger, and sounds like fun.
I'll save you a seat. I'm a doctor, not a covert operative.
And I was trying to figure out, so that's why they had to land so far away, because sounds like they were trying to give the coordinates of where the arena was.
Yeah, I didn't understand that because they gave the coordinates to that place. And they said, no, you can't go there. That's for, that's where the prisoners are being taken, which you just divulged more information than you should have, buddy. And then they went there anyway. It's like, if you knew where you were going, why did you need permission? So you don't get shot out of the sky. So then you go someplace where you weren't supposed to go anyway. Like that one just made me scratch my head.
Well, I mean, I don't know if being 2 kilometers away was still within the range of the restricted area or not.
Yeah. No, we're just going to go to the park next door to the prison.
Yeah, we're just going to, there's a strip mall over there. We want to go to the strip mall.
Nothing to do with a jailbreak. What are we rating this on? Let's rate it on. What did we have that was
unique in here?
How about 14-year anniversary awards?
Wow, that's really okay.
Oh, I mean, we rate on Loom once already?
I think we did.
And we've got on the Loom
all over the place here. So.
And there really wasn't much else in here to grab at.
There's a maybe it's an old Eagle Moss Voyager model.
An old Eagle Moss, whatever they 3D printed up, Nicot flyer.
All right, we'll go with 14th anniversary awards. Wow. That's a lot. I'll go first, and I'm going to rate this one. I'm going to give this one a 6.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I really thought that so much in this episode happened just to have it happen, to kind of just get from beginning to end. All the repetitious dialogue, trying to tack on what I was referring to essentially as Kirk from Star Trek II, where he feels old at the beginning and I feel young at the end type of thing. The loom that can't do its job.
I hadn't even thought about the Wrath of Khan reference. That's good.
So
the loom can't do its
job. Like, I feel young. Yeah. So I'm saying a 6 on this one, which is pretty low for me on Prodigy episodes.
Yes.
And what about you?
I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay.
I still thought it held up well. I can certainly appreciate your comments and observations and why you did that. I thought there was some pretty good action in there, even though it was a bit ridiculous. Like, run away from the loom that doesn't seem to be able to look around a corner. The captured loom was a bit odd, and there were enough bits in there that I kept it from getting closer to a 9, like Essentia not noticing the mobile emitter. And where was that? And what was that all about? So I had a few head scratching moments that went, So I'm probably being pretty generous with an 8 on that one.
Yeah, another thing I was wondering is that Essentia apparently didn't feel at all like maybe it was a trap when Janeway just shows up right away. It's like, nope, that's just fine.
I think her
Hubris got the best of her.
yeah, hubris, the not ego, what's the other one? Starts with an A. Anyway.
Careful now.
I think she was full of herself at that point, and it didn't dawn on her what was going on.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Arrogance, that's what I was looking for.
Ah, there we go. Yes. Okay. Well, those are our ratings on the first one, but we're going to take a break from talking about the episodes and do a little bit of news. But in order to do the news, I have to ask, and I don't know who I'm going to get, but I'm going to have to ask Charlie, is it okay to do subspace chatter?
You don't need all that subspace chatter.
Oh, it's Charlie X.
Formerly known as Charlie Twitter.
Yeah.
I think we pulled that one out before.
Boom. And he's looking judgingly at you, Chuck, because you have the first story.
That was creepy. It's like the eyes follow you.
You know.
All right. Scientists recently discovered 7 new species of tree frogs. Is this where you want the sound effect?
You can play it whenever you feel like.
Okay. In the lush rainforests of Madagascar. These adorable small amphibians, there they are, from the genus Buphus, communicated by way of some rather strange, high-pitched whistling noises. In fact, the research team that discovered the frogs likened the sound of the chirps made by Star Trek communicators. Oh, I can see where this is going. It was therefore logical to name them after Star Trek captains. Say hello to Bufus Kirky, Bufus Picardy, Bufus Siskoe, and Bufus Janeway. Bufus Archery, Bufus Pikey, and Bufus Burnham.
It's true.
You can't make this up, people. I have to hear this again. Wow, they really were smoking some. Were they licking these frogs?
Well, you're Madagascar. You do what Madagascarians do.
This particular group of frogs lives along fast-flowing streams in Madagascar's most mountainous regions. So the background noise may explain why the frogs call at such a high pitch to be heard over the roaring water and organisms in the mountain.
So there we go. I couldn't find a picture of all of them.
Worthy right there.
Yeah. I couldn't find a picture of all of them. So this is just, I don't know which one of the frogs we have on screen here, but I saw a picture with 2 or 3. And again, I couldn't tell if they were there's a photo of all the same ones or not. I got to think they're probably all slight variations on this. And I don't know how you even distinguish between them, but they said there were 7 different ones. So
Poofus Aprili.
I will believe that. All right. With season 5 of Lower Decks premiering next week, the new trailer for the season that came out last week came as a bit of a surprise. So did the appearance of Harry Kim, or Harry Kims in this case.
Oh my.
I don't know if you had a chance to check out.
Not. No.
It is a typical trailer where you've got essentially a lot of things going on. And just here's a bit. But the Harry Kim bit figures prominently because there's a lot of Harry Kims and they're all ensigns, except for one who has 2 pips.
Oh,
yeah. In addition, we were treated to a second poster for this season. This one is nearly identical to the classic teaser trailer for Star Trek V. The big difference being that instead of a red theater seat with a seatbelt attached floating in space, it's a red couch with 2 seat belts. So instead of saying, why are they installing seatbelts in movie theaters this summer? It's why are they putting seatbelts in homes this fall?
well done. Well done. And they put the Cerritos in place of the Enterprise on the poster. Somebody went through a lot of work to recreate this.
Absolutely. Got the fonts in there as well.
The final season is to the final frontier. Nicely done.
All right. Next
Next, staff at veteran game developer Cryptic Studios, developer and operator of the massively multiplayer online games, is going through another round of layoffs. So sorry. Almost a year after the last round, the exact number of people being laid off is unclear.
So this is the studio that manages Star Trek Online.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and it was a kind of a complicated story. I couldn't tell if they had been purchased by some other company or something, and they're transferring a lot of the stuff that they're doing to some other division of this company. And I don't know, it's one of those things where there's lots of corporate intrigue involved. And after the battle for Paramount Mountain, I just didn't have the the desire to go into it too much. But the upshot of it is that they're not sure how well Cryptic is going to survive all this. Now, I don't necessarily think that means the end of Star Trek Online, but they did let go of a lot of senior talent, designers and so forth of the look of the game. And as you know, Star Trek Online does a lot of custom content. They'll have these months long themes. We went through one that was recently where Wesley was actually from the evil universe. He was trying to take over V'ger, and just all these different elaborate things. And you have to create all the assets for that stuff and have all these different looks. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in all of that. But yet I'll still be able to roll around if I need to, just do those forward rolls if I have to. That's the good news. All right. And lastly, speaking of Lower Decks, this past Monday, October 14th, Tawny Newsome, Jerry O'Connell, and Eugene Cordero were panelists on the CBS game show After Midnight. Being true to the spirit of the show, Tawny was introduced as being from Space Force. Jerry was credited as being the host of The Talk, and Eugene work on Loki was his claim to fame. But it was clearly all promoted. Rebecca actually came out at one point. They had an interview section in the middle of the episode.
Yeah.
As well. And she came out and talked a bit. The episode is available for streaming on the Paramount Plus app. If you want to check that out, if you're familiar, I don't know if you're familiar with After Midnight, Chuck.
No.
Okay. It was originally a show that was hosted by Chris Hardwick on Comedy Central called At Midnight with the at symbol.
Oh, okay.
And it ran for several seasons. The premise of the show is lots of pop culture stuff, and you have to answer questions about all these pop culture things, but everybody gets points that are arbitrary, which, they're arbitrary, yet they do mean something ultimately, but they're really kind of still made up in a way. And you're encouraged to just be as ridiculous as possible in what you're doing.
Oh,
yeah. That's why
these are the right people then.
Yeah, that's why I put a little headline here. We're just a shy bunch. Matter of fact, one of the first questions to Jerry O'Connell had to do with, I forget what the question was, but it ended with him taking off his jacket, his shirt, and he had a crop top on.
Oh,
so they're the three of those are really shy people. Yeah, very unassuming. But it's worth a watch. Like I said, if you've got Paramount Plus, just go there and search for After Midnight, and you will find it. All right, that about wraps it up for Subspace Chatter, because we have nothing new out of Vulcan, Ontario, Canada. We had another bunch of stories about the tragic fire in the turkey barn, but nothing really else happening there right now. So with that said, we do have some more stories, and because we're doing the episodes right now every week or so, they're not many news stories. We've got 38 stories this week.
A light week.
Yeah, it is pretty much a light week.
Whoops.
Oh, Charlie, let me show you out. Please don't let yourself out. So you'll find it's a wide variety of things. There's a lot of articles. Big surprise about Lower Decks right now, because we're about to start that season. So a lot of that's going on in here. And I added a new section, I think because two stories I had in here this time around under the movie section, let's see, is it in here? Yeah, Trek movies that never were for one reason or another. So that way I can, when we have a story about like Noah Hawley's script, what was that supposed to be, or something about Quentin Tarantino, I can't put it under a movie because it's not a movie anymore. That never happened. So I'm putting in a new section about Trek movies that never were for one reason or another. And we've got 3 stories in there this week for that one. Oh, and also, if you are a quick thing in news, because I see the section in here about toys, collectibles, and other merchandise. If you go to your Hallmark store, you can get your Enterprise B.
Ooh.
You can just do some battle damage on the side here and, have Kirk blown out of it or something, right around there. But that's another.
Too soon. Too soon.
Too soon. Oh, sorry. All right. So now it's time to say goodbye, Charlie.
I want to stay.
We like Mirror Charlie so much better than you, Charlie.
He thinks Frankie Valli's singing to him. Oh, won't you stay?
We can't afford that. We cannot afford that. All right. Let's move on with an appropriate sound effect to main mission part 2. Sounds like a frog. That's interesting.
Wait, I have to see now. Do I have the communicator in here? Rats. I'll have to look for it later.
Well, next we're talking about Ouroboros Part 1.
Wait, there we go.
There we go.
Communicator?
That's not a frog.
Frog. I guess. I was thinking the newer communicators, but all right, we'll go with that.
And
Ouroboros. Do you know what an Ouroboros is before we go any further?
So it's that classic thing if you have I think it's more than just a snake. I think there's other things, but it's basically the creature is eating its own tail.
Yes. Often depicted as like a circle with a snake head on one end eating its tail. Yep. I'm still trying to figure out how that applies to these 2 episodes, but
well, it's all this looping around when you're basically going back to the beginning, to the end, to the beginning, to the end.
Yeah, it was very timey-wimey, and I just kind of let a few of those go. Like, I'm going to stop trying to figure this out myself.
This one was written by series creator Kevin Hageman and Dan Hageman and Aaron J. Walke, and directed by Sean Bishop. And here is a plot synopsis. As Solum resistance forces begin to rebel, Essentia opens every rift at once, beginning the assault on the Federation. Assault ships depart Solum, headed for the portals. Wesley and Rock realize that by combining the rifts, they can create a single temporal wormhole to send the protostar back to Tars Lamora. Some of the cadets help prep the protostar. They must make sure it is exactly as it was when Dal and Rock first discovered it. See, that's part of that circle thing going on here.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Majel, Rock, and Zero assist Wesley trying to figure out the precise space-time coordinates needed to send the protostar back to Tars Lamora. The data will need to be entered manually from the top of Essentia's research spire. And how they know where that's located, you figure that part out. Anyway, Voyager takes aim at Essentia's forces while the protostar approaches Solum, and an away team beams down. Gwyn starts randomly phasing out due to the effects of the rifts. Wesley's team is overwhelmed by all the variables needed for their calculations. They have to determine how to focus the wormhole so that the protostar moves in a precise course through both space and time. The breakthrough comes when Rock realizes it was the cadets who sent back the ship. Wesley cross-references all the wormholes with the protostar's quantum signature and its current space-time coordinates. One unified path is revealed. On Solum, Jankum, Dal, Gwyn, and Murph begin the long climb up the spire, while Iltheron tries to hold off several Valnukot troops. On board the protostar, hologram Janeway has realized that when the ship is reset, her memories of the past 10 years will be gone. Her program is too big to back up. Chakotay promises that they will find a way. Reaching the elevated platform, the team is ambushed by Essentia and Dreadnought. The input console is destroyed, so the coordinates now need to be entered farther up from the antenna's transceiver. Dal, Jankum, and Murph climb while Gwyn battles Essentia. Jankum is able to begin the convergence sequence, but a power conduit snaps and needs to be reconnected.
That too. Good. I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
Oh, I think we were not the only two. Dreadnought has also scaled the antenna, and Murph needs to fight the machine while Dal climbs up and reconnects the cable. So we've now gone up and up and up.
Great Scott.
When it is repaired, the rifts close, shearing off sections of the warships in the process. A single unified wormhole appears. Meanwhile, Gwyn is on the verge of losing her fight against Essentia, who confesses her plans to turn this reality's Solum into one that will bend to her will. Iltheron arrives, giving his will to Gwyn. Other Valnukat, including young Essentia and members of the ruling council, also give their powers to Gwyn. Essentia is defeated. But as the protostar prepares to make the final voyage, countless loom begin streaming out of the wormhole. Dun, dun, dun.
Good cliffhanger.
All right, so we're going to handle this part first because part 2 has all sorts of craziness going on, and this one has all sorts of craziness going on as well. The first thing that stood out to me, and like I said, I think to everybody else out there, is isn't this Back to the Future at a certain point?
Certainly felt like it. The cable came undone and someone's got to climb up and plug it back in among all the lightning strikes.
Yep.
All they needed was a little rain. I'm surprised there wasn't rain in this whole season.
I did like the episode overall, though, because we're now, after the last episode, we are getting back to really weaving all this stuff together to get to the end of the story.
Yep.
And I think that was important. I think it's another reason I was very disappointed in the last episode. It didn't inform much of what was going on here.
I thought it was a bit odd when Essentia opens up all the wormholes and the cruisers start going through. Janeway comes in and starts firing at them and just doing some major damage to at least 2 or 3 of them. Nobody is returning fire.
Right. It's a very long time before you get one of those red beams coming out of the thing.
That was a bit protracted. So that one kind of went. I don't
think question for you as well is that so all these rifts open up, right?
Right.
And Chakotay says that they're in the major, centers of the Federation world. How the heck do you know that?
Right. And how did Essentia know where to aim all those things?
Well, once again, she was a member of Starfleet.
Okay. Yeah, she would know that, but yeah, that's a good question. How did Chakotay know that?
Because it's just a bunch of rifts. No real indication of where they're going to.
We had Wesley, Rock, Zero, and Murph. Who else was? No, Murph was on the planet. Who was working on the wormhole equations?
That was Wesley, Rock,
Zero, and
Majel, and
Majel was in there. Yes,
Zero.
Okay. And they showed this big, basically a whiteboard, kind of that see-through technology they've got, with a whole bunch of equations, and I'm willing to bet dollars that Dr. Aaron had a hand in some of that nonsense that was up there.
Well, we will hopefully have her back on again sometime if not this year, in the new year. And we have so many questions for her. I think it's going to be a very special long episode.
But that team also iterated a lot of the timeline. I don't know if that was just to remind us what happened in season 2. We know the protostar crashed on Tars Lamora, but we don't know the time. We know Chakotay did this, but we don't know. They had a lot of unknown variables.
Right.
And I think that was to kind of underscore there's in fact, they even said, too many unexpected variables, which is that the term they used for Bribble?
I think so. Which is kind of harsh because was Bribble right there? Probably was.
Yeah, on Rock's shoulder pretty much the whole time.
Harsh, man. Harsh.
And Wesley comes back and says, don't close your mind. Open them.
But it is interesting because sometimes you wonder how you come up with these equations,
Yeah.
and conveniently, at least in this one, they don't have all the information. And if you're trying to have something land in a specific place at a specific time, well, when was that? And nobody knows that.
Right. That's but I did like the way they kinda tied it together and went, "Hey, wait a minute, there's one wormhole that's unaccounted for," and that was the one that kinda started. What if we were the ones that created that? And, like, there's the Ouroboros that we spoke about earlier before. Uh, I don't think we've seen Zero get so excited to go yip, yip, hoot, hoot before.
Oh no, uh, they've said they've said yip yip is their kind of go-to phrase.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I liked how Majel went, "Hoot, hoot indeed."
Yes. I was reminded, there are times when Murph does nothing, and then there's times where Murph just goes all crazy. Took
Yeah.
down Dreadnought.
Well, yeah, eventually. I did like the bungee Murph.
Yeah.
Stretch between 2 whatever and goes twang, nails him into some of the machinery passing by.
Take
Uh,
that, Luffy. And it's
but I'm not sure, the Murph and the Dreadnought fell into this pit of light,
yeah,
and
undetermined
everybody
what.
was like, "No, they're gonna die." And I'm like, I'm not sure. What did they fall into?"
I don't know because, well, I think the reason that it's very bright, it could be, you could have it either very dark or very bright, but you obviously don't want to show all the way down into the thing because then you see that, oh, Murph kind of like bounced or something like a bumble.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess it was just that bright, so you couldn't see, that Jankum couldn't see what was happening at that point because they're just flying straight down, so he should be able to see when they hit bottom what's happening.
Yeah. It was I of course, knowing the show and the way they play the violent scenes, like, Murph isn't gonna die.
Yeah,
They'll come back somehow.
and
The,
it's the second
what
second
did you
time we've
think?
seen Dreadnought's head just kind of go dark.
That was a Terminator kinda scene.
Yeah, they in season one they had the same type of thing that happened. He just like, oh, but I think I can't remember. Did his eyes go dark in season one, but he was still active? I'm trying to remember. I remember they found get that head
Oh, right.
to shut off, and I can't remember if it dimmed out and then came back up again. I have to go back and check on that one.
Yeah, we'll have to I plan on watching season 1 at some point soon again. The, the fight scene between Gwyn and Essentia, what did you think of that?
We have a note here. At one point, I say, Essentia, why won't you die? Followed by her kicking Gwen and Gwen grabbing Essentia's boot as she falls.
Gee, does that sound familiar too?
I mean, she didn't say, I've had enough of you, but
Pretty close. There was a lot of falling. There was a lot of falling.
a lot
Every
of falling.
time.
Well, they did a lot of climbing, so they should do a lot of falling.
But they seem to be okay after falling so many times.
Well, usually there's like a oomph, and then it takes them a second or two to get up. So there is that. Classic stuff in there, though. Although Gwyn does something when they just linger on it too long, even though it's ridiculous to begin with, and they're not the only people who've ever done this by a long shot. This catching, matter of fact, I think Mythbuster did something about this. Like catching the sword blade between your palms.
My note on that is Gwyn has really strong triceps.
Well, especially when she's like that for well over a minute.
Yeah, before Iltheron comes up and says, "My will is yours."
And clearly Essentia has just the leverage over this situation. I mean, she's just pushing down.
Exactly. But, wow, that is some weird physics going on there.
I guess the only thing you could do is say that there's enough retained, whatever it is, let's call it aura, in the heirloom that she's able to tap into enough of it to at least not have it slip any further down.
Plausible. Okay.
But yeah, we learned something new about the Valnukat.
They can transfer their power, energy,
Their
contra?
will.
I'm not sure. Yeah, their will. And we get a Super Gwen, which short circuits Essentia, apparently.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure what happened. She was reaching for it and struggling, and Gwen with the glowy eyes, she just sort of Essentia burned out, and her eyes even went dark. At
Right.
first, it looked like a firecracker went off in her face.
Right. Well, then she drops to her knees and she does the catchphrase that all the Valnukat love. There is no. Yeah. Okay. We know.
And then finally, what have I done?
Well, that she realizes in the next episode.
Oh, right.
But we do get something that I thought was very unexpected, because I figure, okay, there's so much craziness going on in here that they've got plenty to deal with, and they're all set to make, to get the protostar all set to go, and the loom come through the wormhole. And I'm thinking, well, of course they do.
Well, first they pick up a subspace signal. Why would the loom be sending any signal? Unless their communication in general is over subspace.
That could be. And
Okay.
I like the explanation for it, that you have Essentia basically creating all these rifts, which are like calling cards going, hey,
Dinner
what's
bell.
going on
Yeah.
here?
Well,
So
she
I
was just opening wormholes, though, don't they? Well, they feed off of timelines that have gone astray.
right. But I guess they view this as a conduit to get where they needed to get to.
Okay.
All right. Any other thoughts on Ouroboros Part 1?
No, good first half.
Indeed. What do you want to rate this on? What do we got that's special in this episode?
The ultimate question. I'm going to start writing these down as we do reviews. What can we rate this on?
What's special about you, Part 1?
Yip yips and hoot hoots.
Sure. Why not?
It doesn't have to be something physical.
No, not at all. All right. So how many yip yip woot woots are you giving this one?
I'm going to give this one a solid 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
I liked where it went. I thought there were some parts that were a bit stretched out, like more climbing, more fighting. But overall, I think it did pretty well. I only had a couple of points that, I went, wait, what? Why aren't they firing back when Janeway's hot on their trail? Yeah, that would even if they weren't even manned ships or Valnukat occupied or whatever, that some automated system would be raising shields or firing back, but it seemed like it was pretty easy pickings there for a while.
Well, it seemed to me that they were, were those ships identical to Red One that we saw that Dreadnought was in before? And
Didn't look like they were. Well, hard to say. We're going to go back.
So I'm wondering if they're similar. If there's no crew per se, you have dreadnoughts in those things, and they seem to take. They don't take a lot of initiative. It seems that Essentia or the Diviner has to tell them they're more capable of doing these things, but they don't do it themselves.
Seems rather inefficient not to have a distributed hierarchy like that.
It's the weakness in her plan. That's it.
How about you? What would you rate it?
Okay, I'm going to rate this one. I think rebounding off of the last episode kind of gives this an advantage, and I'm going to give this an 8.75.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I thought we were back on track. Yes, there was a lot of stuff going on, but I thought about the fact that the Valnukat suddenly have this where they can give their will. I'm thinking, well, you're making up a race. Okay, as long as you're consistent with that, and we have seen Gwyn and the Diviner communicate or have that global. So it's not a thing. it's a new aspect of that thing. So, okay, great. We can, I can live with that as being something. And I did like a lot of the things that happened in the episode, and visually as well. I enjoyed that when Voyager was going through and firing at the ships, that it was not doing crazy U-turn kind of bizarre angles. It was doing a very slow lumbering kind of pass by everything and shooting. And I also enjoyed that when those rifts closed, you had the one that was headed towards, of course, it's always headed to Starfleet, headquarters in San Francisco.
It's chopped in half.
Just chopped right in half when the rift closed, and it just explodes at that point. I thought that was a great thing. And like I said, I was not expecting the loom to show up.
That was a nice touch.
If I had a chance to really sit down and think about it for 20 minutes before they'll show the last scene, I might, but I think in the spur of the moment, I thought, oh man, this is so crazy what that was going. Oh, great. One more thing is going to be happening.
Yep.
So yeah, 8.75 for me.
All right, good.
And now we are on to not only the last episode to review for this episode of The Topic is Trek, but also the last episode of season 2 and the last episode of Prodigy. We hope not.
No, they set it up so well, and we'll get to that in just a second.
All right, so run us through the statistics here.
All right, Ouroboros Part 2, written by Kevin Hageman, Dan Hageman, and Aaron J. Weltke, directed by Rulin Lee. Here's the synopsis. The loom rained down on Solum. Essentia realizes the damage she has caused. Wesley says the multiple rifts attracted the loom to the protostar's location. Now, to save the future, the ship must travel through the swarm and enter the wormhole. Autopilot can't navigate through the swarm, so Chakotay volunteers to pilot the protostar while Voyager clears a path. He can beam out once both ships exit the wormhole. Wesley and the cadets also remain on board to finish the mission. Dal believes that this is the reason Wesley insisted the group stay together. But the Traveler says the reason the universe needs them involves events yet to come. I wrote that quote down. I'll get to it in a sec. Voyager struggles to cut through the endless stream of time creatures. And when navigation fails, Janeway has cetacean ops plot the course forward. At last, both ships exit the wormhole. Temporal echoes of the protostar pass by, a sign that the timeline is reintegrating. Hologram Janeway regrets that she needs to be reset, but Chakotay has been working with the doctor. Hologram Janeway's program has been saved to an EMH backup module. Good thinking. Just before the crew beams out, Dal remembers to place the comm badge in plain sight so Rock can activate it when she and Dal explore the ship for the first time. We see flashes of events from the journey between Tars Lamora to this moment. When Voyager returns to Solum, the wormhole collapses. The loom retreat, history has been saved, and Gwyn no longer needs her stabilizer armband. Voyager lands on Solum, where Janeway and Gwyn are greeted by Iltheron. The Val Nakot hugs his daughter. Starfleet personnel remove Essentia's equipment and box it up for delivery to the Daystrom Institute. Wesley pays a long overdue visit to his mother, now living in London. Beverly makes sure to introduce the Traveler to his baby brother, Jack. Chakotay takes command of the Voyager, while Janeway takes early retirement to spend time on her farm in Indiana. Back at Starfleet Academy, the cadets continue to remain together. They are celebrities on campus. During first contact day, while discussing their experiences, alarms sound. There's been an attack by synths on the Romulan Rescue Armada at Utopia Planitia shipyards. Chakotay travels to Indiana to speak with Catherine. The Federation needs her. Briefing key officers, Admiral Jellicoe says Starfleet has been asked to scale back other priorities and concentrate on protecting Federation citizens. Admiral Janeway objects, arguing that Romulan evacuations must continue. Jellicoe says he has already broken the news to Admiral Picard, who did not take it well. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the cadets are unsure what will come next. But an order from Janeway has them rush to the Academy shipyards, where they find Janeway, Chakotay, and the EMH and a Protostar class ship, the USS Prodigy, NCC 81084. Due to shifting priorities, Starfleet was set to decommission the ship, but Janeway creates a pilot program centered around exploration. She gives the cadets field commissions to ensign and briefs them on the importance of maintaining a beacon of light during the dark times ahead. Like Wesley, Janeway knows that somehow, somewhere, the team is going to make a great difference. Hologram Janeway, now upgraded to emergency command hologram status, will be joining the mission. What was she before? Training hologram?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. When tasked with selecting an acting captain for the Prodigy, Dal defers to Gwyn. Finally complete with new uniforms, the crew awaits Captain Gwyn's word. Her first order? Let's reach for the stars.
No, let's just reach the stars.
Let's reach the stars. Doesn't really roll off the tongue anyway. Not like let's fly or engage.
Well, I mean, I thought about it, and not every captain really has to have a catchphrase. Excuse me. That was not a thing before.
That's true. Picard.
So I think that was her first orders, but not necessarily what she would say every single time.
Oh, I hope not.
So the first thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned was, do you remember way back in 2017 when people said, this show, I had to wait like 3 episodes or 4 episodes before I saw the Discovery. You had to wait 2 seasons of the show to see the USS Prodigy.
The namesake for this.
So there.
It wasn't called Star Trek Protostar.
That's right.
I thought the name Prodigy was around the kids.
I think so too. And I think that would be appropriate as well. But I just got a kick out of that. Wait a minute now. Okay, so in the 40th episode of this show, we first see the ship.
Quit your belly aching.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that, like people,
right.
Didn't see Discovery right away. Well,
I said it metaphorically to the
hold my beer and watch this,
All right, where do you want to start?
Well, I want to start with my overall note that this episode was so densely packed with stuff.
I thought it was over when it was half over.
Yeah, we get the conclusion of the story arc.
Yep.
We get a montage of highlights of the entire 2-season journey. We get emotional family reunions. You've got, the reunion between Gwyn and Iltheron, between Beverly and Wesley.
Yep.
You get a "Where Are They Now" update when Janeway is retiring and the kids are back at the academy, and Dr. Aaron is saying, "Oh, well, here's
your temporal mechanics 101. You won't need those anymore.
There's 2.
Get out 201. Oh, they're so expensive at the bookstore.
I know. This one has notes in it already. That is cheaper.
$3 back for the 101 book.
So we get a tie-in to Star Trek Picard. We get a new mission for the cadets who are now ensigns, and we get new uniforms. I mean, come on. This is this episode,
more stuff to buy for the cruise and Dragon Con.
Yeah,
more uniforms. That's what I told Donna.
The actual length of the episode, you take out the intros and the outros, the credits and stuff. All that happens in 21 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yep. That's a lot.
That is a lot. And I don't think that anything felt rushed.
No. I'm gonna start at the top with the notes that I had. The Loom are attacking Solum. We don't actually see anybody getting attacked. There were people running around and the Loom were running around, but nobody got disintegrated.
Well, I have a note here. One of my notes is, how effective were the Loom?
They killed like 3 people when we first met them at Wesley's house.
Well, we got, so when the landing party goes, right, you have a red shirt.
Yep.
That team that goes down with Tices and Gwyn gets it. When the Loom come on board Voyager through the view screen, the nav and ops,
yep,
they get erased. I'm not sure if, do we see anyone else get erased?
Somebody else in the corridor that bought it.
Okay. All right. So
So
maybe like
we'll call it
4 or
4.
5
Right.
people?
And here they are flying straight into a storm of loom, and none of them. I mean, a couple of them bounced off of Voyager.
Yeah, one of them, like, landed on the windshield and went, never mind."
I'm like, what? Are they squarely focused on Solom for some reason?
I
'Cause
I guess.
I thought that you're right. They were completely ineffective in this episode, and really, they didn't quite have that, "Oh my gosh, it's the Borg" moment. Like, this is gonna be bad. So, they lost some credibility in my book.
Well, I think it comes down to the problem of it is a show that's designed for a younger audience.
I counted that in, and I also balanced that with, yeah, it used to be on Nickelodeon, now it's on Netflix. Okay, but they're still showing some pretty violent stuff without
Right.
having somebody get wrapped in a tentacle and disappear. Is that more violent than, I don't know. It seemed like we weren't quite consistent in what we were filtering and not filtering.
Mhm.
Um, Janeway, as they're going into the wormhole, she says, "Once more into the breach," which is
Yes.
actually a misquote from Shakespeare. It's "once more unto the breach."
Right.
So I'm like, why does that sound really familiar? And I went and looked it up and went, oh,
Yes. I also and I made a note about that, and also that I was getting a vibe, and I think this couldn't be helped, but I was still getting the vibe of Discovery and the Enterprise at the battle with Control, and Discovery trying to get to the future, trying to get to that point, get away from the battle and reach what they needed to do, which was beyond the battle. And
yeah.
here you have essentially the same type of thing going on. I think there's even one shot where um, they're going in and the ship, the angle is shooting up. They're going up rather than ahead to
Mhm.
get into the thing, which is another classic Trek thing you do is you have the ship go up, straight up. There's no up in space, but on the screen there is, and that's
Exactly.
what they're doing there. So I was getting some vibes of that, and I can't say that was intentional or not. I think it's just was the nature of the beast, and they both did that. It's not as overt as some of the things we've seen in the show, but it still gave me a sense of that.
I did write down Wesley's quote. It's, "Oh, Dell, I wasn't talking about now. The reason the universe needs you all together, that hasn't happened yet. Things yet to come. Wondrous and terrible things. Well, you'll have to wait and see."
Yeah.
That was crazy old man talk there.
And you just hold on Dow's face for like, what?
I still don't think he's right. When they get on the Prodigy at the end, "Oh, this is the point that Wesley was talking." I said, "I don't think you're there yet."
Yeah.
Still don't think you're there. Why? I don't want to be I don't want to have the wrong tone on this, but Janeway calls for cetacean ops to take over navigation, and the humpback starts swimming through some hoops. I'm not sure
Well,
how that all worked.
it looked to me because it looked to me that rather than just being in the tank, which would be, just to give information, it looked like there was a specific section that there were controls along this thing. And if you'll notice, when the whale would shift this way, then they cut immediately to the outside, and Voyager starts going that same way. So
Right.
I
Okay.
think that section was, and the eye seemed to be looking at the controls. So that was the whale actually controlling the direction of the ship and trying possibly trying to keep moving to keep getting that sense of its relationship of where it is, and then going to a control and going, okay, we need to go this way, we need to go that way, type of thing. I'm guessing on that, but
Still seem like a big chunk of ship to take a
well, that
group
is
member.
true. That is true. That's why they only have the beluga whales on the Cerritos.
Smaller ship, smaller tank. I did think it was a nice montage as the protostar was returned. That was kind of a nice wrap up. Um,
And were you also thinking same thing I was, is when they're all set to leave and they're going, no, the comm badge, you know?
yes, yes. I'm glad they remembered that detail and did it the way they did. Um, what did I have? This is oh,
One thing,
the doctor. The doctor. He's in sick bay. He goes, "This is the end," and then
what?
he's on the table like, "What?" He goes, "No, no, my hollow novel." Like, that was sick.
Nobody ever said he had good bedside manner, and this is more proof of that same thing. One of the things I put in the synopsis was that actually two things in the quote I said that um, Wesley goes to visit his mother in London, and he gets introduced to his baby brother Jack.
Yes,
Now, she never says Jack, but it's obviously Jack that
right.
being introduced to. And London, I was listening to an interview with Aaron Walken. He was talking about that if you look out the window, you'll see the spire thing, the shard,
The
whatever
shard,
it's
yeah.
called in London, is out the window because someone who had worked on Picard was as I think a writer's assistant was on Prodigy. And so they were able to like have these communications about, well, what's happening in Picard and so forth. And so, okay, well, we're going to have Jack in this thing, but it's an actor who's got an English accent. Can we help you guys retrofit that? And so they spend time in London.
Oh, interesting.
So you have those two things kind of sewn together that way.
Yep.
And yeah, not the only Picard reference we've got, because we've obviously got, as we mentioned, Jellicoe saying,
Yeah.
Admiral Picard did not take it well.
The we had the cadets, sitting around before the alarms go off, of course. They said, "I think we still have some time. Do not say that word." They don't want anything to do with time anymore. I the whole section of Janeway calling the team immediately, and they come running and they get their field promotion, and she says, "I had to call in a few favors." That felt very sketchy to me because Jellicoe said, "We're not doing any more of this," but yet she somehow I this feels like she's pulling a fast one, like she's stealing the Prodigy, in my opinion.
So you think that she doesn't have any permission at all? And
I don't
she
think
just
it was sanctioned, to be honest.
interesting. Well, to put on there's a certain aspect of Jellicoe that we've experienced in the past. It could be that, well, we're going to decommission the ship and they're just cadets anyway. Sure. That makes you happy. If that helps you sleep through the night, Catherine, great. Go ahead and do that.
They they've done more to save. It's like, wow, they're making the rest of Starfleet look pretty sad, and all they're getting is, you can go on another training mission if you want.
Yeah.
We should be doing the training at this point.
We'll let you decide who's going to be captain, Good thing Murph didn't chop into the seat first, I mean, or
Yeah,
Bribble. That'll
and
be even
we get
more
to
interesting.
see, Dal play out that scene that he saw when he looked into the time stream. He says, "I don't, I may have made a mistake. This chair isn't for me," because he only saw that one bit out of context, and then we got
Right.
to see how that all fits in. So I thought that was another good way of showing Dal's growth,
Yes.
that he doesn't have to be the captain anymore.
Right. He still says he's on that career path, for command, but
He's keeping his options open.
yeah, which I think is good. And yes, I definitely think that as long as when we get our next season, which hopefully we will, Netflix, that we don't have the backslide that we had at the beginning of this season, because I felt like, okay, he grew, fell back, and now we seem to have, grown some more. So let's have him keep going. And and more of that
Yep.
type of thing. I mean, you have to have some dissension among the crew, some kind of conflict of one kind or another. Otherwise, you get the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Mhm.
So there'll be that dynamic in there, but I just don't want to see him slide back like he did before.
Did you notice as the Prodigy took off, it wasn't the regular stretchy effect. They were gone
Well, they used the proto drive.
right from the get-go. Don't they normally have to fire that up while they're at
Well, they
work?
do as it's turning around. As it's turning around, it didn't seem like it was exactly the same format, but the back opens up and you see this white light glowing in the center of the
Oh,
back.
right. Yes, they did. But I didn't think you could use that from a dead stop, but they did, and they were dead gone.
Yep, I did. I forget. Did they have a little ping? Is there?
If it was very like I was still in shock of where did they go? We've never seen a ship do anything but that, stretch and now you're at warp.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's. I mean, that's it. It goes fast. Go fast. And it certainly does.
All right. Am I back to starting the ratings?
Yeah. Yes, you are. But what are we rating it on?
What are we rating it on? Pips?
Sure, because we got pips aplenty now.
Okay. Or hollow novels. We'll go with pips. I'm going to give this 8.5 pips. I thought it was very good. Had a few head scratchers at the beginning. Like, we didn't see anybody get killed by the loom. We're just flying through the loom and they don't seem to care. And, but, we got closure, which is good. The whole story arc came to an end. Like you said, there was a lot packed in here. It didn't have the same multiple ending issue that Picard did. Like, it's over.
Mm.
Now we're gonna have an epilogue, and we're gonna have another epilogue, and we're gonna have another epilogue. So I thought that they took care of that in a much cleaner approach. Granted, it's a shorter format. What was the final episode of Picard? A 90-minute episode? Or, I thought it was extended or something. So it was.
It felt like it, so I'm not sure.
That's being kind. So 8.5 pips.
All right. I'm gonna go higher. I'm gonna give this one a 9.
Woo!
I really was amazed when I was done watching the episode and I was thinking about, okay, I'm gonna have to write this synopsis now. So what happens in this episode? And I go, what doesn't happen in this episode?
True.
And then I thought, like I said, okay, well, what did they rush through? Nothing. They took whatever time they needed for whatever thing they had to get done. Once again, I'm amazed that they build in these quiet moments in an episode that's only 20 minutes long, and
That's
yet
true. They had time enough for the quiet moments. Yep.
they get all this stuff done. Very nice payoffs, lots of tie-ins to, Picard. So definitely, right up there. I think it
A
was,
launch pad for season 3 if we get it.
yes, I certainly hope so. Whether we get a season 3, whether we get, I'd be happy if we did, something along the lines of Section 31
Yeah.
and, get a movie out of it, even if it's a streaming movie type of thing. But we, definitely, you always want to leave people wanting more, but I just don't feel like we're done yet, because you want to say, okay, now they're within the Federation and Starfleet, but they're on their own ship. So how does that dynamic work? They're not, they're ensigns. They've got, some legit reason to be able to call another ship if they need
True.
assistance or
True.
something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a different dynamic that would be going on.
I have one footnote. Dr. Erin was in here, as we mentioned.
Yes.
She's telling the students about temporal mechanics. Her performance in this and knowing how she would talk in real life, I'm wondering if somebody pulled back the reins a little bit. Because if she were telling a real crowd, you've heard her speak,
Yes.
and she would be saying, when she's telling them, all right, you don't have to worry about temporal mechanics 101. You're not going to need that anymore. she would put some fun into her voice. It felt very not monotone, but just very leveled. And I thought, "That's not how she really talks." But maybe
Well, keep in mind the way Erin talks is not necessarily the same way that if you have the words in front of her that she has to act those
right,
words.
that's what I'm talking about. It felt and maybe someone was directing her in her acting to say, "Don't do this the way you would do on stage if you were doing a slideshow." But, yeah, I realize she is not a voice actor. She is hired for a different role in this show, and this was a special appearance. But it just I was just hoping that a little more natural Aaron
Hmm.
would come through.
Hmm. And I was just thinking that was her third appearance on Prodigy,
Yes.
becoming a series regular all of a sudden.
She introduced us to Dal, kinda Dal's genetic lab situation, whatever
Yep.
that was, and then she was on the video introducing him to temporal mechanics, and now we get this lecturer. So she's more than just a video.
Indeed. All
Wonderful
right. Well, that
series.
about
I loved season 2. This was very, very good, and I'm glad I did not consume it all in July. It was very fun getting the payoff at the end.
and when a series is over, I want to do the same thing with Prodigy that we did with Discovery, which is our favorite moments. But I view that as when it's done. And at this point, I'm
Yeah,
not
for sure.
considering Prodigy done.
No, I'm
You
not
know,
either. I'm
if we get word somewhere down the line, we'll revisit it and we'll do it then.
sure.
We'll do one for Lower Decks when Lower Decks is over. But I'm holding off on
Oh, we
Prodigy.
know when Lower Decks is over, so
Right.
that one we can do fairly
Right.
quickly.
So we're not gonna do that now.
No,
We're gonna hope that we've got a ways to go before we have to get there.
too soon for an epitaph.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. All right. Well, it's time to refill the dilithium chamber and to warp on out of here. You can find me, Clinton, at Comedy Forecast, all one word with the number 4, working on a story when I can fit it in between all these crazy, so many episodes of the topic is Trek right now. It's like, I need a break soon. Fortunately, the next time we have an episode, there'll be 2 episodes of Lower Decks to talk about. So, working on it, working on it. Who speaks for you guys? I'm going to take a wild guess and I'm going to say it's Chuck.
You would be correct. And part of the we are also facing lack of Technorama right now, partly because of Craig's recovery from Hurricane Helene, and partly because I'm on the road quite a bit in October and into November. So we're going to get a Sunday night recording in this week on the 20th. And that's about it for October. We'll talk to you again later in November. So normally we would be doing tech, science, sci-fi, and all kinds of geeky nerdery things and bad dad humor, you name it. We have a fun time hanging out on Sunday nights and releasing the audio podcast a few days later. You can find that by searching for Technorama Podcast or by going to chuckchat.com. We'd love to see you online and chat with us.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. I think that's all of our business out of the way. Our next episode, we should be recording live on at 9:30 Eastern on
23rd.
October 24th.
24th. Yes.
Right.
No,
And that will
it's
be
17th today.
the first 2 episodes of Prodigy of Lower Decks because it will premiere with 2 episodes. Why they're
Lucky
doing
us.
that, I don't know, but
To be mean.
they're doing that. All right. And special guest will be Gary Lindros, I believe, will be joining us for that one.
Yay.
I have a note here. Is that something I need to, oops. Just reading, we get a note.
Don't put on the
Here.
red shirt. Oh,
With MTV, post this Lower Deck episode name before next week.
Oh,
Yeah, they, a lot of times they don't. And I think the reason they don't is because sometimes you can infer an awful lot about an episode from its title.
Wash dies. No, that'd be a bad
Yeah,
title.
that would be a very bad title. And I think that's why they don't do it an awful lot. But yeah, we'll see if that happens or not. All right. But right now it's time to hit the theme, boys. If you like the show, please be sure to tell a friend about it and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on X at The Topic is Trek, visit our Facebook page, or call us at 816-TREKKER. That's 816-873-5537. Until next time, on behalf of Chuck, Craig, and myself, I'm Clinton, thanking you for listening. And as we always see here on The Topic is Trek,
Don't
put
put on the red shirt.
shirt. Ooh, now they have red shirts in Prodigy.
Audio stopped.
Yay!
Wonderful. Good job, team. There were a couple parts where your audio was getting a little glitchy. It was still comprehensible, but it never like dropped out to the point where I needed you to repeat something.
Okay. There's a backup going on. I'm hoping that wasn't the cause for it. If it is, I'm just going to be sure next time that I just disable the backup.
All right.
I don't need that copy of Hologram Janeway anyway. So, oh, we gotta.
I needed to free up some space. I deleted the.
Oops, sorry about that. We have a Mike Willis showing up. I'm late, but I showed up.
Oh, my
points.
We'll check you off on the attendance sheet.
That's right. I was here.
Right.
All right, so folks, we will be signing off now, and we hope to see you a week from tonight when we start talking about the final season of Lower Decks. Yay and
Yay.
boo all at the same time.
Live long and prosper.